All right, 3, 2, 1. What is going on, guys? This is the 5 Yard Pass podcast with me, Suddy, and this is Sham, and we'll be talking Premier League as always, and the weekend roundup with a couple of choice games. Sham, I thought some of the games, some refereeing decisions were horrible. Gareth Bale coming out of the woodwork, it was all madness in the weekend. What do you think?
Yeah.
What was your standout game? And let's go from there.
I thought Spurs had a bit of a statement win. The way they went about it, just completely overwhelming Burnley, 4-0. The United-Chelsea one was interesting as well. Just, I guess, it felt a bit like a tactical game as opposed to, as opposed to one of those classics that EPL, two teams having a massive crack at each other game. And like you said, penalties, they seem to have wound back the definition of what is a penalty and what isn't. They were giving everything earlier in the season, and they seem to have pulled that back a bit, but seems to be creating some confusion.
I mean, well, I guess let's just go into the Chelsea game first. Chelsea United game. In moments, that game was tactically was a very nice game to watch. In moments, Tuchel seems to have got a very nice kind of setup going in the midfield, and United's defense played quite well. Very very uncharacteristic, really, but they played quite well in moments. But I think United, the game was there for United to win. Besides the penalty, it really was there for United to win. I just think they just don't seem to go for it. They scored one goal against the Big Six, the so-called Big Six, right? And to that end, it's the top scorers in the Premier League. I mean, I think they still are the top scorers in the Premier League. But what's going on? Why don't you think United don't go for these games, or do you think they're not capable just yet?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you said, it's one goal against the Big Six. It's 7 games, and the only goal that they scored was the game they lost 6-1. It was a penalty and they lost 6-1. So it's a pretty damning statistic. And when you think about that on one side, and you think about the fact that they're the top scorers in the Premier League on the other side, it's quite stark. And they kind of went from being last season a team that could do actually quite well against some of the top sides, and actually had a pretty good record. I think they did the double over Guardiola, which I don't think's ever happened before, or something. And they did have some really good results against a lot of the top teams.
Yeah,
who not really looking like scoring, yet alone beating some of those big teams, and yet they're still sitting second in the Premier League. It's part of it, I think, is due to the change in the way that the team wants to play. The team is looking to, rather than sort of sitting and hitting on the counter attack. And the team still has that in them. I mean, they beat some of the results in Europe, like they beat Leipzig 5-0, they beat Sociedad 4-0, playing that way. But in the Premier League, if they want to do well, they're going to have to get on the front foot. They're going to have to take teams on. It's just not quite in this team's DNA yet to do that. And it was interesting with the Chelsea game. I think Chelsea had a lot of half chances. They had one chance that De Gea made a good save from Ziyech early in the second half.
And there's also that Mace. Yeah, sorry, it was Ziyech. Yeah. Sorry, no, I was thinking the wrong one. You're right.
Yeah, United looked like they actually had better chances, but I don't think United. I do feel that while the penalty in that game probably should have been given, particularly when you look at a lot of the decisions this season, it didn't really feel like one team deserved to win over the other. It did 0-0 or 1-1 probably was probably the right result for that game.
Yeah, I wanted to pick out who I thought was the best player of the game. I thought Mason Mount was unbelievable. When I say unbelievable, I mean the guy has gone from Lampard to Tuchel and has performed. He's performed so well, and he had that one kind of half chance. Well, not half chance. He had one opportunity. He kind of beat about 4 players, went into the box and cut in. And had he I thought that was it. He should have scored that. He's been good, man. He's been good. Do you like him? I mean, when I say like him, do you like what you're seeing in that player?
Yeah, definitely. And it's not common to see youth players become world-class players. We grew up watching the class of '92, and we think about these 6 players that came through. But the reality is, like, with all due respect to them, it's probably Giggs, Scholes, and Beckham at his best were world-class.
Yeah,
the other 3 were good sort of squad players that were good enough to play for England. And don't get me wrong, they're not bad players, but we don't. It's actually quite rare to see a youth player become world class and become an important player in a team. And he is probably the most important player, Mason Mount, at the moment for Chelsea. and definitely
Yeah.
some really good moments. He moves well with the ball. He brings
Hmm.
other players into the game. He's that. We talked about it a couple of times about the modern day English player being sort of quite a technical type player that can play that sort of pass and move style at a high tempo, and he's sort of the
Yeah.
epitome of that, isn't he?
Well, I mean, Chelsea, if it, in many ways, this last season was what Lampard would always lead them with. I'm just looking at the lineup here, the players who did play. Let's classify kind of the academy player or the players who've been there for a long, long time. These two kind of big categories. I mean, I'm looking at Christensen Academy, Callum Hudson. Oh, these are academies: Christensen, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Mason Mount, Reece James. I think Kurt Zuma as well. And then you have the likes of
Abraham.
Aspilicueta, who's been there for years. There's this base of kind of veteran Chelsea philosophy. You can almost start saying the word Chelsea DNA to these kind of players who saw Chelsea in 03, 04 becoming the world class team that the world class club that they are, not just
Yeah.
a cup club anymore. So it's nice to see, and it's kind of the end product of what Man City, I guess, would want to be in about 10, 15 years. It takes a long time to get there
It
because
takes a generation. Yeah.
it does, but it'll be harder for Man City because their success is in some ways the success far outweighs what Chelsea will ever do, I think. And also because they have such a small fan base. Man City will never be a big club, I think. And because their success comes so fast, the turnover of players are so fast. I personally don't think they'll ever have the patience. Anyway, that's a kind of point for another time. But coming back to this game, in terms of United, I thought as a unit they played quite well. And I thought McTominay for me was quite a standout player, man. Besides United's defense, he seems to be he seems to be able to play with his back, kind of holding up play in the six, being a bit of a destroyer, and he's a good player, man. He's a good, solid player, and you can see he's one of the leaders of the team. If he's been there, Mourinho's second season, so 3 seasons now, no, 4 seasons now, he's been part of the club. So
And
I like
compared
him.
to a lot of the other players, that's a long time because there's been that turnover with United.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the players there. You think of Rash, De Gea in that starting 11, Martial. Yeah, I mean, he's a senior player. He'd be taking the first seat in the bus, as they say. Um, it's a point miss for both teams. United will feel a pinch a bit more, I guess. They wanted to keep pace with Man City, and I think the break off to 12 points is big. But you know, I got lucky as well with 2 points being dropped by a loss by Leicester, and West Ham dropping points as well. So United stay in second, and they push on, man. I mean, I guess it's not a discussion for top four anymore. It's a top three discussion for United at the moment, and just up to Chelsea, Liverpool, West Ham to battle it out, and Leicester as well. I guess Leicester's kind of in the in between at the minute.
Yeah, Leicester had a shocking result on the weekend. They had injuries. So Barnes got injured, and that did not look good at all.
No,
Another injury as well, I think. But the way that they fell apart a bit against Arsenal,
hmm
and you worry for them about the consequences of that for the season. I just didn't like the manner of that loss. There's just
yeah,
something about it that just knocked me about a bit because I think Leicester have been doing really well the whole season, and you'd want to see them carry on. But
yeah.
it did have the signs of that result that can break a team. So it'll be very important for them how they respond in the next game.
Well, I mean, the thing about Leicester, I didn't actually realize how many injuries they had till after the loss. I was going through the game, and
Mm,
it's big, man. It's big, and it's big players as well. It's not, big
mm,
list is one thing, big players is another.
yeah,
It'll be interesting to
Justin,
see.
Fafana, now Barnes. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
it'll
young
be
core of players that was supposed to be that next generation coming through
yeah,
and adding something
and
to the
Harvey
team.
Harvey Barnes and you put he's not injured, but is Madison injured? Madison's injured as well.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, you think about the what do you call the value of the goals they score in terms of the points that their goals put on the board. All I can think of is Harvey Barnes and Madison for Leicester this season. They've kind of taken a lot of the burden off Vardy. So it would be interesting to see how they go. And look, like we said, this top four race is well and truly open. The top three race, for that matter, with second and third well and truly open. I think Man City,
yeah, I mean
we
the reality is United dropped points, Leicester dropped points, West Ham dropped points, Chelsea dropped points. Um,
yeah.
and then Liverpool, Everton, and Tottenham, who are right behind, have won. So it's even congested that race up a bit
Mm,
more.
mm. You can, I mean, Everton looking at the table. Yeah, you're right. You're looking at the table yourself there, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Well
sorry,
and
just
truly,
looking at
well
the
and
table.
truly. Everton winning right now, actually, as we speak, they're winning 1-0, or is it 2-0? Well and truly in the discussion, man. Very interesting kind of permutations. Um, So let's just shift gears a little bit then. We'll go to, as we say, champions elect Man City. I said it'd be a 5-0 win. I think you got it spot on. I think you said 2-0, 2-1. So fair play.
Yeah, I went
You
for that game
so,
management win, and it was
but it
it's
wasn't
interesting
quite a
with
game
City.
management win though.
Hmm?
It wasn't quite a game management win the way you perceive. You got the score right, but it was a tough game for them. A very
Yeah,
tough game.
West Ham did really
Yeah,
well. They're niggly best, West Ham.
yeah,
I think City had it in the bag, but West Ham just never gave it to them. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's crazy with City's 12 points from the first 8 games. Now it's 50 points from the last 18. So literally
Yeah,
won 16 and drawn 2 of their last 18 games. That's just
yeah,
phenomenal. I don't care
yeah,
where you are. And particularly in this, we talk about this topsy-turvy season and all that. That's an incredibly consistent run of form. That's why they're 13 points, or how many points they are ahead in the league.
yeah.
Um,
Uh,
it was a bit of a blast of the past looking at the lineup. They had Fernandinho, De Bruyne, and Aguero in the team. So it was a bit
hmm.
like, oh, this is like Man City from 3 years ago. But it kind
Yeah,
of, to me, it kind of showed the difference between the last great City team and this great City team that this current team could become. I don't think they're there yet. They've not won anything, but they could turn into something over the next 1 to 2 years.
yeah,
Um, it did feel a bit as well. So Fernandinho played quite well. De Bruyne played quite well. Aguero was good enough. They clearly were game managing him. As soon as the
hmm,
clock read 60 minutes, he was off. So it was
hmm,
clearly a game management decision.
hmm.
De Bruyne looked at a luxury at times, to be honest. Normally
Yeah.
he sits in the inside right channel, but you could see him at times sitting on the inside left channel,
Okay.
and so whipping crosses in from that side.
Yeah.
Um, I did think they did. I think with those three coming in, because that's his spine basically. So I think it
Hmm.
did change the way that they played a bit. I don't think they quite adjusted to it well, which is
Hmm.
probably reflected in the fact that two centre backs were the goal scorers from set pieces.
Yeah.
Um, but they did enough to win. They managed the game well. West Ham gave everything they had, and particularly when they scored West Ham, they made it very uncomfortable for Man City. But Man City always
Yeah.
had it in the bag, and you could see Fernandinho, a couple of tactical fouls, a couple of breaking up the play. That what he
Yeah.
brings to that team. I think people, because last season without company he was really important, but with Diaz and Stones coming up, he seems to have dropped in importance quite dramatically. But I still think there's a role for him in this team, even though it might be his
Well,
final season.
well, yeah. I mean, he's definitely past his kind of prime physical abilities in his speed, and but like I always point out to the example you gave me when I was kind of really starting to understand football a bit more. Whatever you lose in foot speed, you have to gain in mental speed. And Ryan Giggs is a good example of that when he shifted from the wings into that kind of more of a sixth position, I guess, in certain games. So I guess Aguero has that know-how of an older player, and you can see it in that. I want to point this out though, and the stats kind of reflect a different game. I obviously agree with you. I think Man City had most of the control for most of the game, but West Ham made it difficult, man. If you look at the shots that they had, Jesse Lingard, Mikel Antonio having 7 shots by themselves out of the 9 shots on target, Man City having 10 in total. Um, Jesse Lingard's it's a different player, man, and he seems to be the whole environment seems to be working well for him. And like I said, I think they've lacked this kind of guy since Dimitri Payet, and West Ham seem to historically, this is in the I guess in their DNA a little bit. They seem to thrive on this kind of free spirit kind of player. And arguably they have two of them. One in Mikel Antonio. I think he's quite of a free spirit kind of guy because he kind of plays all over. You trust him almost anywhere except for centre back. So you know, you obviously have always liked Jesse Lingard yourself, and you've always said something about having a fresh. There's something about having a fresh start that just kind of releases a player. You saw that in likes of like a Forlan. I can't think of any other player right now, but you know what I'm trying to say. So it's good to see. It's good to see him being on the kind of forefront. He probably, shoe in for England if he keeps up this kind of form. Um,
Yeah, I never thought of him as having that sort of personality where he could become a talisman, but he was clearly a popular guy in the United dressing room as well.
mm, yeah,
So he's obviously someone like you see some of those goal celebrations. He's celebrating with his teammates
mm,
he's known only for a month, but clearly
yeah,
there's an affection there. So
yeah,
good for him. And like you said, fresh start, just a different perspective. It'd be interesting to see how he thinks about his future. Um,
yeah,
at
yeah.
the end of the season, he may go. I'm not going back to Old Trafford. Like for all you know,
Well, well,
like
well, I
he
I
may
was just
make
gonna
certain decisions, but he's got off to a cracking start. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that, right? He made a comment. I think it was after the game, as in a day after the game. He said that. he kind of said after the lockdown, the first lockdown back in June, July, when the Premier League was opening up again, that he was fit, he was ready to go, never given a chance. And he said he's always making me fit, waiting for the right opportunity. It was very cryptic. I guess you call it that cryptic message where it's like, look at me now kind of thing. And if he goes on to, you know, if he goes on to get some sort of recognition for player of the season for West Ham, that kind of, he's up there with the votes and he's up there in conversation. I mean, it makes it hard for United. He's going to wonder why should I go back? Probably not going to win a title with United in the next 2 or 3 years. It makes no real difference. I'm having fun playing with Declan Rice in the middle. Probably the best up and coming DM in the league right now, English DM. So yeah, all interesting topics for Jesse Lingard.
If you're playing as a 10 with Rice and Suchek behind you, you're not doing too bad.
No.
And West Ham, like it's probably a step down from United, but they're fourth. It's not like they're trying to avoid relegation. They're trying to get into the Champions League.
Exactly, absolutely. And I guess the last pull is always that kind of lifestyle, and the London lifestyle. The lockdown never ends. There is a pull to live there. It's a different kind of animal.
I found with cricket players, when you look at cricket players in the 1970s, they used to have to work. So they'd work in the morning, then come and play cricket, and then there were amateurs who had other jobs. This is in Australia particularly. In England, they're professional cricketers, but in Australia, they were amateurs for a very long time. And so you got sort of life experiences by doing that. But the modern day player gets very cocooned. They get sent to this academy and that academy, and don't have to. Like my first job was basically night fill in a supermarket where you stack the milk shelves and stuff like that. Like you get life experiences out of those sort of things. And the modern day footballer doesn't really get that. Sometimes you find that, particularly with cricketers in Australia, they try and get them to move interstate. So you sort of have to set your life up in a different way, living away from home and that sort of thing. And Lingard might be going through something like that, where he's kind of, I know that he's, just had a baby and all that sort of thing, but he's kind of he's had to grow up a bit just by having to move to London. And that can lift you to another level.
I mean, Lingard's he's the young 28-year-old, right? Lingard.
Yeah.
It's weird to say, but I mean, if you think about it, he's older than Bruno, man. So, I mean, the levels he should be playing.
Yeah, he looks like a baby face, doesn't he? But Bruno has an older face, doesn't he?
Bruno looks like a weathered mariachi band.
Yeah. He's a bit Heskey-esque, isn't he? He's 25, but looks 43. Yeah.
And just the last point. I mean, if you're if you're Ruben Diaz and John Stones, besides this game, clean sheet after clean sheet, then you're putting 2 goals in. You're now this incredible centre back pairing. John Stones is this revived player. Diaz is this guy came in from Portugal, similar to Bruno, coming from Portugal. You kind of questions like, bang, I'm now the best performing defender in the league. I mean, this partnership is looking like an impenetrable force. For
and
years
to think that last season it was Laporte. They were building everything around Laporte, and he was playing such a great, American.
Yeah, I mean, Laporte looks like he's not going to sit on the bench much longer, so he probably leaves. So anyway, Man City, top of the league, 12 points ahead of United, very much in control, and they play United this weekend after midweek fixtures. So very much in control to win 4 trophies as well. Sham, could be a kind of Bayern Munich kind of season the way they're going. They're absolutely an absolute force, and I say this with complete fear in my heart of how much they could destroy United this weekend with the kind of just a little bit of luck. United could get absolutely tapped this weekend if it doesn't go well. Yeah. Moving on to the last fixture of the weekend, 4-0 Spurs versus Burnley. We got 2 goals from Gareth Bale and an assist from Bale, actually, I believe. Yeah, and the Lucas Moura
2 goals and assists. Son had 2 assists.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like nearly everyone scored. Yeah, nearly everyone scored or assisted someone. So, it almost played into what you said. Where you said Kane, Moura, Son, Bale, and Dele Alli. If you can get them playing together, and Lamela, somehow most of them play together, it could work, and it did work against a tough Burnley side. But Burnley seemed to kind of, I wouldn't say crumble, but it just never really turned up. But I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think the Spurs? I don't think personally this is a game reflective of how good Spurs is. In fact, I don't think they're that good. I think we kind of hyped the train. I think this game is. I think Burnley's never a good marker for kind of. I mean, to be honest, it's not a good marker for anyone to kind of measure the season against. Um, and just let's be honest, where are they right now? They're eighth. Yeah, eighth. Yeah. What do you think of this Tottenham side before you get into the game? Oh, like, as a reflection of the game, I guess. Where does this Tottenham side kind of land for you?
Yeah, I mean, Burnley are a team. I'll start just on Burnley quickly. They're
Yeah.
a team that are hard to score against. So getting 4 goals
Hmm.
against them, but you're right, they just didn't seem to turn up against Spurs. And Tottenham did get that early goal. I think that was good for their confidence. And I did sort of note last week against West Ham, they seemed to turn a corner a bit after Lingard got that second goal against them. But I wouldn't have expected them to win 4-0.
Mm.
I think just there was something different about Gareth Bale that seemed to lift everybody around him. He just seemed to come in and play at a much higher level. I think he gave that assist for Harry Kane's first goal, which was a beautiful it was a long ball, but a beautiful long ball. And Harry Kane could sort of just bring it down in his stride.
Yeah.
And it kind of like he seemed to just grow from that
Hmm.
and just approach something to that sort of, Real Madrid
Hmm.
form that he had that was just absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the reality is that he's not produced anything like that in his entire time at Tottenham. He's not produced anything like that in a long time. So there's serious questions, I think, still around whether that's going to be the case long term or whether this is just one game in isolation.
Hmm.
There is definite capacity with that team to really explode and turn into something. Um,
Hmm.
you were talking about City winning everything. Well, they got Tottenham in the League Cup final, and Bale plays like that. They'll be very difficult to beat.
Hmm.
And you can just tell straight away that Mourinho is going to set up there for the old counter attack in that game. So
Yeah, Bale's not
there's
playing that game.
definitely potential with Tottenham. Any
Hmm.
team with Son, Kane, Bale could do anything. There are questions over that defense. I think the defense played quite well. I think it's Davidson Sanchez, the
Yeah.
big class athletic centre back. I think that he was. I think he played pretty well as well. He seems reminded me a bit of Eric Bailly. Like he seemed to be everywhere, just sort of
Yeah.
cutting out attacks and a little
Yeah.
bit manic, but in a good way.
Hmm.
I think it's not a bad thing for that team to have someone who's a bit manic who just gives everyone energy.
Hmm.
Um, that team, I think, is built on that Højbjerg and Ndombele axis and how they get the best out of that. It's important. I do think that for all of the Kane, Bale, Son talk, this is the time of the season where Lucas Moura starts showing up and starts adding something.
Hmm.
So I do think that there's
Hmm.
definite growth in them, but they've had a
Hmm.
pretty poor season so far. They started
Yeah.
off well enough, but they almost seem to be playing, I don't like saying within themselves, but they seem restrained very
Hmm.
much earlier in the season. Whereas
Hmm.
now, if they can play like that, they actually will have a pretty good finish to the season. The question
Hmm.
is that a one-off or is that a question? Is that something where you could start seeing them play like that week in, week out? And I mean, Tottenham, when I grew up, Tottenham was kind of like everyone's second favorite team. They had they were quite sort of free rolling. They're like going forward, taking the game on. There was, they had that sort of history behind them of playing with a bit of panache. So
The Darren Andersons, Les Ferdinands, that team.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Ginola played with them
David
for a
David
while as
David
well.
Ginola. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there
Uh,
was that famous game where United were 3-0 down at halftime and won 5-3.
yeah.
You have to play well to
5-3. Yeah.
score 3 goals against United in a half. And
Yeah.
guys like
Yeah.
Berbatov and Keane also played with them as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they've got that history behind them. So we've talked a bit about clubs like United, for example, getting back to their DNA, and I think that it's funny because you don't a club is really something quite ethereal, but there does seem to be a certain DNA in a certain way about certain teams. Um, as much as I was saying Tottenham had a good start to the season, it didn't seem in line with their DNA. Whereas what sort of happened on the weekend seems more in line with it. So if
Yeah.
they can tap into that and build something, I actually think they can have a good finish to the season. But
Yeah.
it is for all we know that this could be just a flash in the pan because they're that
Um.
unpredictable at the moment.
I mean, I'm. It's hard to think otherwise to me. But they have a couple of easy games that they can build, easier games, I guess they can build upon. They got Fulham and Palace next. And I believe after that it'll be going back to the who are they playing in the Europa League? I forget now.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah,
They have
they
something. They have
smashed whoever they
something
were
big.
playing in the Europa. They won like
Yeah, they smashed
8-3 on aggregate or something. It was
it's like
ridiculous.
Wolfsenberg. It's like Wolfsburg Light, I think.
Dinamo
Um,
Zagreb are next.
okay, I think that's. I mean, They should look to go through easy that round. They have a
So
couple of
Fulham,
easier
Crystal
games.
Palace. That Dinamo Zagreb game has got an Arsenal derby sandwiched in between. So
Yeah, I mean, they'll be looking to get some good momentum because then they have a couple of tough ones and all that. So um, interesting times for Spurs, man. I just think this is a flash in the pan. I don't think the players play good enough. I don't think Mourinho likes the players he has too much either. I really don't. I don't think. I think as all managers, you need 3 to 4 transfer windows to get what you want. And will Mourinho get that? I think he will. I think Daniel Levy's a smart enough man to know there's maybe no better alternative who could come to England right now. I think of Julian Nagelsmann for Red Bull Salzburg, sorry, Red Bull Leipzig, sorry, and a few other younger managers. Maybe Allegri could come over, but it's a big gamble bringing those guys over when you have someone who I know Levy. I mean, we all know Levy. He wants money, and Champions League gets you money, and all he wants is for them to fifth, sixth, or fourth, and happy days.
mm.
Every a manager say every season. So, and to that end, if Mourinho delivers a trophy this season in April, that buys him. You can't deny it buys him. A season, the next season as well.
Tottenham fans have this theory that every year ending in one, they win a trophy. They didn't in 2011, but 1961, 71, 81, 91, I think 01 as well. They won trophies.
They won the League Cup, yeah.
Yeah, so 2021. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you never know.
But
But
Sham,
I do agree with that comment. I don't think Mourinho is a big fan of a lot of those pieces. Like I mean, I know he loves Kane and Son, but there's players there that he clearly doesn't like. They will be looking for a goalkeeper as well. Lloris is like 35, 36. So
yeah,
they'll be looking for a new keeper. I don't think he likes the strength of his defense. I don't think Eric Dyer would play ideally for him.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And he's had massive cracks at Ndombele in the past publicly.
mm-hmm.
So I agree with that comment. He needs time to build his team, but you just hope that Mourinho doesn't constrain them too much because I think they do struggle when they're constrained and really reined in tactically. You'd hope he gets that
Mm-hmm.
balance right between letting them express themselves and we know Mourinho has that reputation for being very defensively solid, but he does like his attacking players to get on to express themselves when the situation's right. So you hope he gets that balance right with his team. He's still searching for
Yeah,
that balance though.
yeah. Um, yeah. I think I was thinking about the keeper situation the other day, and yeah, I guess Spurs really do need to start grooming someone to take over Lloris. Lloris just looks off. Just looks in moments he just looks a bit off, and that comes with age. And
Mm.
I found a lot of these French players, um, Griezmann, Kante, Pogba, Hugo Lloris. There's a number of others I looked at the other day, all dropped off after the World Cup, and it's a very mental thing. When you reach the top of the mountain, it's what else is there? Like, why do I have to gear up for a Champions League game? A lot of these guys dropped off, and when you're young and you drop off, that's fine. You can, Pogba, you see, he's kind of getting back into form. Griezmann's definitely come back into form, but when you're that old, it's hard, man. It's tough to come back
It's a
into
bit of a
form.
worry because like they're the reigning world champions. There's a Euro Championships at the end of the summer. Like
Mm,
if those guys play at that level, I don't see
no,
them. I don't see them winning it. And you'd think that would start entering their consciousness at some point.
yeah,
That they're going to get ready for the Euros.
yeah,
And maybe not having it last summer knocked them about a bit and knocked around. Maybe they were up for it last year and then it just never sort of happened. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it'd be interesting to see how
I
some
mean,
of these players do internationally.
as far as the Euro goes, I mean, Sham, it's hard to look past Portugal for the Euro and the World Cup. Honestly, I mean,
Well, we just
they
talked
just
about
have
what Fernandez, Bernardo
it's
Silva, Ruben Diaz.
Diaz.
Phew.
I mean, there's always
And who's that guy
Ronaldo,
from Italy? I forgot his name. Yeah,
Maldini.
Christian. Whatever. Christian. What's his face? Yeah.
Yeah, talk. I mean, that's fine. And Ronaldo's going to play in the next 7 World Cups. Like Bruno retire, Ronaldo's going to be playing.
Yeah.
So I that's my bet. I have put a little bit of a bet down for Portugal to win with a few friends. I picked Portugal, but yeah, look, Spurs maybe slightly differing opinion here. I just don't think Spurs is all that. They're much like United maybe a year or two ago where you beat someone and they do this big fanfare. Consistency. It's all about 3 to 4 games of every 5 games you're winning, and you're winning it, winning it, and winning it. And I think the only team that doing that at the moment is Spurs and Spurs, excuse me, Man City. So it's a big yardstick, man. Big yardstick. 12 points. I'm just looking at it a little bit heartbroken, seeing 12 points here. I mean, that's basically the league title.
Yeah. Oh, that
That's it.
I always say it's a point a game. If if, for example, you're in relegation zone and you're 4 points off safety and you've got 5 games left, yeah, you can do it. But if you're more than a point a game behind the team ahead of you, you can't really expect to take over them. So you'd think that City have got it now. 4
So
points
just
clear,
I'm just gonna
12 games left in the season. So yeah, they've been champions elect for a while, and they'll take that title. It'll be interesting to see how they build the rest of their season out, because they could go and win all four. I don't think they will.
Mhm.
People like saying it, so they're the first to say it. I don't think they'll do it, but you
I mean,
never know. They're favourites for every competition they're in.
Sham, they're 12 points away. They're 12 games left, 12 points, point a game. They still win.
Yeah, probably the
So,
way everybody's playing this season. United play 26, 50. Yeah, but
yeah.
if you look at United's points per game,
Mm.
if United gets a what's that, 12 games, 24 points, end up 74 points. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty
Man
much
City
there.
still up. They get 12. They get the next 12 draws. They win the league.
Mm.
Ah, Jesus Christ.
Hmm.
Anyway, so any stand-up moments for you? Oh, I just wanted to bring this up actually. A little bit off track. We'll actually say this first. Stand-up play for you this week, and then we'll get to this next point I wanted to bring up.
I didn't understand. I did pick
Stand-up moment.
I did pick Maximin
Yeah,
as
Alan say
player to
Maxim.
watch. He didn't get a goal and assist. He got what do they call the second assist. He got the pass before the assist for Newcastle's goal.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, there might be careful because he got injured as well. There was another
yeah.
injury as well in the Newcastle game. So a little
3
worried
points.
if you're a
Yeah,
Newcastle fan. Fulham didn't quite take advantage of it. They probably
yeah.
needed to beat Palace. But
Mhm.
in the relegation zone, if one team goes on a run, because teams obviously their points per game is pretty bad.
Yeah,
That's why they're in the relegation zone.
yeah,
When you go on a run, you can get out of it very quickly. So one of
yeah,
those West Brom or Fulham, and West Brom had an important win.
yeah.
Um, Fulham are there, Newcastle are there. I think Brighton and Burnley might be careful not to fall into it. There could be it could be very messy at the end of the season, that
Yeah,
relegation zone.
it could
I
be
thought
could be.
I thought Arsenal had a bit of an important win as well. I
They
did
did.
not expect them to beat Leicester,
They
and it looked
did.
fairly easy. Like it, yeah,
I mean,
Leicester. I think Leicester scored first in there, and I thought, oh yeah, here you go, Arsenal again.
yeah.
But there's something happened. Pepe was actually quite important in that game. I thought he had
If you,
a
are you
really
saying you feel
important
a
impact.
shift, Sham?
Hmm?
Are you saying you feel a
I don't
shift?
know. Like there was something about Arsenal that I haven't seen in a while. Like
Okay.
they Leicester. I think Leicester scored first, and then Arsenal sort of got into it, and then from that point, it just looked like a team that were ready to dominate the game. And
Okay.
I don't know if it's just because Leicester had too many injuries, or the thing about Arsenal is they actually do have good players in the attacking areas of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and particularly with Smith Rowe coming off injured, I just thought, oh, okay, well, this is gonna not turn out well for them. But they just seem to grab the game and
Yeah.
take it. It reminded me a little bit like when Liverpool beat them 4-0 at Leicester. It reminded me a bit of that game. Like I just never thought Arsenal were going to lose once they got in front.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it could be a bit of a Spurs situation where it's just a bit of a flash in the pan, but there
Mm-hmm.
was something about Arsenal that I did quite like. They seem to have like a bit of a strength about them that you don't normally associate with Arsenal teams of the last 10 years.
Yeah. They seem to be. They move the ball around quite well. They seem to be taking a bit more risk.
Mm.
Willian played quite well as well, I thought, which is very kind of uncharacteristic, but it is, man. Like, let's be honest, it is. He's played rubbish since he's come, and I think Chelsea fans. I've spoken to so many Chelsea fans. I've watched Chelsea fan channels. The guy Rory from the Kickoff, and they were delighted when he left. And the same way that Arsenal fans
I
thought they
always
got
thought
a
of him as
gem
hot
when
and
Danny.
cold. I didn't realize he evoked so much hatred. I saw him as a bit of a hot and cold type player.
Well, it's the same way when United fans were rejoicing when Danny Welbeck left. Like you've paid us to take Danny Welbeck.
Okay.
In that same way, I think Chelsea fans are kind of rejoicing. But like, look, I see what you're saying with the Arsenal game, but it's hard to invest in Arsenal. You know,
Yeah. Oh,
geez,
you're absolutely right. I wouldn't buy
Sham,
Arsenal
we
stocks
sat.
by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah.
They're top of the league. They're top of the second half of the table. Let's especially Arsenal. Sean, we sat here in what was it, October, November, when they beat United 1-0. Aubameyang scored, and we were like, "Wow, we love what Arteta's doing." And we're sitting here in March, and we're just going like, "Jesus Christ!" Like, okay,
Yeah.
you're beating Leicester. You're supposed to beat Leicester.
We've
Arsenal's
ripped
supposed
Arsenal
to beat
pretty hard
Leicester.
this season, but to be
We
honest, they've
have,
deserved it.
But Sham, the people who ripped them, the people who ripped Arsenal the most, Sham, is themselves.
Yeah,
Okay,
Arsenal
it's
TV. Yeah.
themselves. No, I'm talking about the team itself and Arsenal TV. Okay, the one I wanted to say was real quick before I finish off is, did you see the news coming out of Barcelona today
About the
with
arrest?
the club, yeah, the rest.
I saw the old president got arrested, and they had the police came to the club. But you give us a bit more.
So essentially, the whole thing is this thing called Barca Gate. I mean, they put a gate next to everything, but it was because Bartomeu, whatever his name
Bartholomew.
is,
Yeah.
Bartolomeu, whatever, he hired a social media agency to discredit players publicly. That's the accusation. And there's a lot of little rules, I guess, a little laws that he's broken. But that's insane, man. The president, like, I mean, I think that's insane. And if Messi doesn't leave, Messi will obviously, I mean, they'll obviously get out of the Champions League in 2 weeks' time, and next week. I mean, Messi's looking at it and goes, dude, I help you build this club. You know, PK's, Busquets, all look, I mean, they all very much have a big part to play. Puyol, someone like Puyol's looking at it going like, I mean, this guy's a scumbag, man. Absolutely, it doesn't get more scummy. If the allegations are true, which I mean, wouldn't put it past him.
I do remember 12 months ago, like Lionel Messi was coming out to defend the players, and we all thought
I remember that.
this is very un-Messi like, because
Yeah,
he's like, if you see pictures of those great Barcelona teams, like they take team pictures and then Messi's the little guy in the corner.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like he seems to be that guy who's very much, not that he's not a vocal talisman, like he's not a John Terry sort of type leader. He's a leader
yeah,
in his own way. Um, but for him to come out and publicly say, that he wasn't fearing that, the players were feeling discredited and all of that sort of thing. So they kind of knew something was going on. But that it's just like you think, it was almost Bartolomew's willing to tear everything down for his own sake, as opposed to bringing Barcelona up. And when you see that but make no mistake, Barcelona are in crisis. They're 500 million pounds in debt or something like that. Ridiculous, They're
yeah,
looking to build the stadium. They have significant money to invest. They have to put significant money into the squad to bring it back up. The revenue sources all dried up. This is a club that is getting on their knees. Like they're in a really bad way, and their man, the talisman of the last 15 years, is going to leave. Messi will leave. He's not hanging around.
And the
So
dangerous part about all this, Sham, is that
massive crises, and you look at clubs like Arsenal have had issues with ownership. United have had issues with ownership. Barcelona, Real Madrid have been very up and down with Perez. Yeah, they've won, their Champions League titles. I think he's won 5 Champions League titles.
yeah,
Perez, if you count back. But there've been moments where he's been under absolute crisis. He actually changed the constitution at the club at one point to make sure that very few people could apply. I think he had to put up a bank guarantee for $250 million or something like that to be able to apply for the Real Madrid presidency, which shuts most
yeah,
people out. So, like, you talk about how important leadership is to institutions, and then you see stuff like Bartholomew deliberately tearing down people within the club. Ooh, not good.
My I think the most dangerous sign for me is that they seem to have a lack of leadership, on like a serious lack of any leaders. And when United lacked leaders, you could at least count on Van Gaal and Mourinho to at least have some sort of control in that squad, a modicum of control. But when they hired Koeman, I thought I don't know who made that decision. I thought it was a ridiculous decision hiring Koeman. Unproven record. He took Everton, ran them to the ground. He did terribly with Everton, and he took a Belgian team that he's supposed to do well with, and he did well. You're supposed to do well with Belgium. This generation of Belgian players, and he just doesn't seem to have control the way Tata Martino just didn't have control the way what's the guy? The guy before Koeman. No, the guy before Koeman. The guy who was the Betis manager. He had no control.
Oh, okay, Etienne or something, right?
Setien.
Etienne, yeah.
No control, and it seems like Bartolomeu were hiring these people because he knew that he wasn't going to get challenged. And when they have that, and it's a very kind of narcissistic kind of personality. I'm going to be friends. I'm going to, if a guy makes friends with kind of weaker fellas, it's because they're not going to challenge him the same way.
Yes, man.
You
In a
see
way,
the transition away from Guardiola, Rijkaard, the Rijkaards when he was so passionate and so kind of controlling the touchline, to Guardiola, who brought perfection, and it just kind of descended away.
Yeah.
And I think a big turning
Luis
point.
Enrique was like that. He won stuff, but he challenged people a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just he was continually trying to push forward, and you can imagine someone like him struggling under Bartomeu.
He was so worn down, Luis Enrique, and then obviously when he went to Spain, then do you remember his daughter died? So he took a time away, and he came back, and the second in charge was like, "I want to be manager," and he was like, "No, fuck off." He just sacked him.
The Spain job, yeah.
Enrique's got that personality. He said, "No, you've been disloyal." It's very much like a movie.
Luis Enrique moved from Real Madrid to Barcelona. Yeah, he's got balls.
Yeah, he does. He's in the Luis Figo realm of things. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought it was an interesting story to bring up and just
he did the reverse Figo. Yeah,
that sounds like a sex move. I don't know why. Yeah. So just an interesting story. It's always nice to kind of not talk about the non-Premier League stuff. Sham, do you have any closing thoughts? We obviously put a video on Friday. There's a couple of midweek fixtures. I'll just get it up now. We can run through it just real quickly, and just see if there's any choice fixtures. I think United plays Palace. Give it a second there.
Sorry, just a couple of buttons. So City and Wolves. You think City will win?
Jesus, Liverpool playing Chelsea.
Liverpool Chelsea. Yeah, that's probably the pick of the fixtures. You think Crystal Palace versus United will be interesting. I think United might nick it. Villa might nick Sheffield United.
Yeah.
West Brom against Everton would be interesting as well.
Yeah.
But I think that might be a draw. But Liverpool Chelsea is clearly the standout there. Liverpool did enough to beat Sheffield United. And there will be it will help them to play at Anfield. But I lean to them beating Chelsea.
Yeah.
But Chelsea do look difficult to score against. So you think it's going to be a very low scoring game. It might be one of those. Also, the Real Madrid president, he was talking about the Liverpool. This is when it was all the ghost goal and that sort of era under Mourinho. He said, Liverpool play Chelsea. You could put a piece of shit on a stick and stick it in the middle of the stadium, and the fans will still cheer. It could be one of those shit on a stick games. Yeah.
Sham, what an era of football that was. I think back on the ghost goal. All I can hear is Gerrard, what's his name? Luis Garcia. That's all I can hear. Oh, what a great era of football. United never really won anything in that era. They were kind of building that great 07, 08 team.
Yeah, they won in 02 and then they won in 07. So they won 5 years.
They won 03. 03 they won.
03 they won, sorry. Yeah, 03 they won.
And then they won 07. 07 they won.
Yeah, so 3 years without winning a title, which I think in the Premier League era was the longest Fergie went without winning anything.
Yeah, but he still sprinkled it with a League Cup and
FA Cup. Yeah.
05. No, 05 they didn't win the FA Cup.
They beat Millwall.
03. 04 they won. 03. 04 3-0 Millwall. Yeah, that's right. Timmy Cahill played that game for Millwall, actually.
And Dennis Wise,
it was Ronaldo's first trophy ever, actually. It's a weird trophy to win for Ronaldo. You think of the things he's done now. His first ever trophy was the FA Cup against Millwall. Anyway, love you chat as always, Sham. Going to be a great couple of, actually, from Thursday night, this weekend's fixtures as well. It's going to be huge. United playing City as well. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Suddy. This is Sham with a 5-yard pass. Keep football simple. And as always,
keep passing, guys.